All right, I'm gonna go on a little bit of a rant here. Um, if you've been experimenting with human in the loop workflows, namely where you're supervising LLM output, you'll quickly realize that the status quo IDE experience is kind of bad, actually. And the reason why is because the way the IDEs have evolved over years, quite reasonably, IDEs are really optimized for the editor experience, which is why in leading IDEs like Visual Code, the editor is front and center, and the secondary usability affordance is typically the file explorer. And that usability paradigm pervades throughout all leading IDEs, the JetBrains family, Eclipse, etc. They all feature an editing experience front and center that is the primary user affordance. The secondary user affordance is almost always the file explorer. Well, if you're a human in the loop supervising LLM output, you really don't need an editor. It's not useful at all. And furthermore, you don't need a file explorer. And I would suggest that having a file explorer is an anti-pattern, whether or not you're using an LLM. But the real question is what's going to happen with all of these IDE experiences? Because a lot of the leading ones that we're familiar with, Cursor, for example, was forked from Visual Code, and there are other examples. Many of the leading, quote unquote AI development environments are really forks of the Visual Code product. Therefore, the foundational design principle is incongruent with human in the loop workflows. So this is a really interesting problem, and I'm really interested to see who emerges to solve this. What I think is probably going to happen is that as we grow more and more frustrated with this kind of clunky user experience, we're probably going to start to get into a more terminal-based experience. For instance, a pretty common workflow for me using Tmux is to open a pane on the right, and here is where I will run Claude. And again, because Claude is doing a lot of is generating a lot of the output, I don't need an editor for that. Instead, what I need are appropriate tooling that will allow me to responsibly supervise LLM output. And I have a little bit of a system for that using Tmux and other terminal tools. And I'll show that in a later video. But for today, the real question is, what's going to happen? We're all trying to beaver away at this mountain of work, but the tools that we have are wholly inappropriate. And this is an emergent problem. This has become apparent maybe in the past few months, after so many companies and so many millions of dollars have been poured into extending the Visual Code platform. And that seems like not a good investment at the moment. But that's all for now. I'm working from hotel, but hope to be back in my regular studio soon.